All right, what's up? Welcome to the opening line, Corey and Benny. Got Benny back in the saddle, back at it, coming at you about 2 weekends. See, about 2 weeks. Benny, 2 weeks away from Labor Day weekend, right?
I think we got 3, right? Well, 2.5. Yeah, 2.5.
Well,
we're in the middle of it's a Thursday. It's 2.5. You know, Monday, 3 Mondays from now is Labor Day.
Okay. Look at my calendar. Hot and heavy right now as far as drafting and stuff like that is concerned. But what's up, Benny? Give us an update. How's everything going?
Yeah, I'm good, man. A bunch of people reached out, so thank you for that. I wound up with a kidney stone the other night. So I basically, if anybody's ever had one, it is like the most painful thing in the world. I was like curled up in the fetal position on the bathroom floor in my house from like 1 a.m. until about 6 a.m. I'm down here. I'm down at the beach, and I got the kids, and I'm by myself. My wife is home, so my aunt has a house not too far from here. She came over, sat with the kids, dropped me off at the hospital. So I hung out there for a couple hours, got home a little after 1 o'clock or so, pretty much slept the rest of the day, and, whatever. They gave me some good meds, and, I'm good enough to do the show. Right back in the saddle, Corey. Not going to keep me down.
Bring some of those meds up the road when you come back. Nah.
I don't know if there'll be any left, but I'll bring some if they are.
Then he said, I don't know if there'll be any left. Oh, man, I can tell y'all a story about a horrible night I had in D.C. With some medicine. And Kennedy's mom had bronchitis. So when she coughed, there was like tremendous pain in her chest. And your microphone's off, Benny. And they gave her some of the good stuff. And maybe about a month or so later, I had like a toothache. So it was a decent amount of pills left. And I was going to a baseball game. It was opening day. It was opening day at Nats Park. It might have been the first game ever at Nats Park. No, it wasn't opening day. It was the season that they opened the stadium, but it wasn't opening day. But everybody's first time.
Right.
Yeah, it was the first time going to Nats Park. And I think I took one before work. I might have put 3 in my shirt pocket. And the one I took before work, I was like, well, this is all right. And then I left work early that day. I think I took another one while I was at work. By the time the day was done, Benny, I had took all 4 of them, and I was drinking and stuff like that. And let's just say it ended up with me being found like 4 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Being found.
When you mix alcohol with the painkillers, that turns into a bad day, man.
On the complete other side of town. You know what I'm saying? Complete other side of town. I was it was funny. I got robbed. You know what I'm saying? They took my cell phone. They took my money. I had about $200 on me. You know what I'm saying? And I just remember Kennedy's mom always tells this story. Somebody called her, like my homeboy, my man Rel, called her and was like, yo, Corey's pretty banged up. You know what I'm saying? And he's by himself. You should look out for him. You know what I'm saying? So she was like, she woke up and was like, okay, all right, he'll be here sooner or later, whatever.
Right.
And it's about 3 o'clock, she was like calling me, and she was like, he's not answering the phone. Let me see what's going on. The train station I normally go to, she was like, trains coming in. And finally, the last train of the night came in, and it was no me. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, oh, no. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? I got to call this dude's mother. You know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third. So she's like, as she's getting ready to call my mom, you know what I mean? She's like, the phone rang, and it was me. The cops woke me up on the train, son. They woke me up. I didn't have my like I said, they took my cell phone. They took my bread, whatever. And I called her from a payphone. I had change in my pocket. I called her from a payphone, and I was like, come get me. Come get me.
All right, so maybe I won't save some of these pills then. I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't know if I want this happening again.
It was wild, Benny. It was wild. I'll never forget that shit. I was done off. But, yeah, I had one too many of them, and I never took another one ever since. All right, so let's get into the good stuff, the fantasy football stuff. as we get ready to got drafts coming up this weekend. I'll be leaving for Ohio tomorrow for the Kings Classic 14-team league. This is a terrible year to be in 14-team leagues because it's no depth to the player pool this year, Benny. So, what are some of the observations you've seen over the past couple of days?
Yeah, so I mean, the good side of me basically sitting in a hospital room most of the day yesterday is I just sat on RotoWire for a couple hours and flipped through all the stuff that a lot of the beat writers are writing and things from camp. So, a couple interesting things I wanted to throw at you here. First off, Jimmy Garoppolo. Yesterday in practice, 5 interceptions. And not like 5 interceptions throughout like a 2-hour practice. 5 consecutive plays
in a row.
Interceptions on. And the news out of camp is that he's not really looking too good. So, again, I'm not ready to say C.J. Beathard is going to be back in there or that this is going to destroy the San Francisco offense, but you got to be at least a little concerned, no?
Benny, I asked you, that was Monday. I asked you on Monday if you think Garoppolo could get benched this season. Like, he's not playing well. And Nick Mullins can play.
Again, I still don't want to believe it because I've seen Jimmy Garoppolo be good. Yeah. And we saw Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard last year, and there was really nothing special about either one of them. Like
Mullins can play a little bit.
You think so?
Yeah,
well, you know what? He might, again, if the news coming out of camp is anything, there's a good chance that it might actually happen. So Garoppolo's not really getting drafted now anyway. Like in one quarterback, 12-team leagues, he's basically somebody's backup in like the last round or a guy that's not even getting drafted.
There's a good chance he'll start the season, and certainly if you play in a 12-team league with 16 roster spots, it's a good chance he'll be on the waiver wire after week 1.
And here's the thing I'm going to say too is like, if you're taking him as like your second quarterback with your last pick just to have depth or something, I get it. But if you're taking Jimmy Garoppolo as your starting quarterback,
I wouldn't bank on that.
Yeah, I know he was a guy that crept up a lot of boards last year, but I would not be interested in it this year.
Yeah, nah, my man Gucci, I call him Gucci Garoppolo. You know what I'm saying? My man Gucci was real. Last year this time he was real popular. You know what I'm saying? He had that photo taken with that big-breasted porn star. You know what I mean? And then he had all the stuff going on, you know what I mean? Italian stallion, you know what I'm saying? Now, kind of that luster's kind of wore off, you know what I mean? And
I would say all of the luster's worn off.
Yeah, all of the luster's worn off. You're right, Benny. And it's just not there no more. But what I will ask you was, what we do like is Kyle Shanahan offenses for fantasy. We're not really, outside of talking about the running backs, do you think some of the luster off Kyle Shanahan's fantasy-friendly offenses has gone away? Or would we not paying no attention this year?
See, here's the thing. I mean, the way I look at it is the quarterback play can't be worse than it was last year. And they still had some fantasy-relevant players last year. Like Kittle was a top tight end. Like Matt Breida had a pretty good season, as a running back there. None of the wide receivers really came into their own. But, again, how many wide receivers are people really looking at for fantasy? I mean, you and I are not Dante Pettis guys, but he's going like 80 or 90.
If you remember last year, it was that son of a gun, that Marcus Goodwin.
Yep.
Goodwin last year. He reminds me of Godwin this year.
Where he had he had all the hype coming into the season. Well, this is the reason why I'm not as high on Chris Godwin. Now, I think Chris Godwin's in a better situation than Marcus Goodwin.
Just like Goodwin last year, Benny, I'm starting to warm up to Godwin this year.
Yeah, I like Godwin. My beef with Godwin is not him as a player or the opportunity that he's going to get. I mean, they're talking about him lining up in the slot, outside, inside, like never coming off the field, basically. The problem I have with him is we're not getting a discount, right? No. So if he doesn't live up to the hype that everybody has for him, you overpaid for the guy because he's going way earlier than you would have expected him to.
I was on the joint with Jim Day last night. I think they're going to drop that joint today with me, Jim Day, and Mike Blewett. Shout out to the homies. Jim Day mentioned 100 catches for Godwin.
6 or 7 a game?
Yeah.
I mean, again, in that offense, I don't think it's crazy. We're expecting them to be pretty pass-heavy, no?
If he snags 100 balls, he's worth where he's going in drafts then.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though.
I've heard say that, and I trust Jim, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I trust Jim. Jim knows his stuff, you know what I mean? But I haven't heard nobody associate Godwin with 100 balls yet. So maybe, I don't know, Benny. That's interesting. That becomes interesting. Because if he gets 100, it's worth it.
Yeah, if he gets 100, he's worth it. But, I mean, it's a lot easier to say the guy's going to have 100 catches than him to get him. If he gets 70, then you could still have gotten a guy that could get 70, 75 catches 4 rounds after where Chris Godwin's going right now. Because he's creeping up into like the 4th to 5th round in some of these drafts. You can get Larry Fitzgerald in the 9th round who may catch 100 balls too.
You're right.
Probably not as many yards, maybe not as many touchdowns, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if he does anything less than the ceiling, the 90, 100 catches that people are saying he might be able to get, he's not worth a 4th-round pick. So that's my big beef with him.
Top target. O.J. Howard is the 2nd target. Chris Godwin's the 3rd target. It's a lot of passes, but I think they will throw the football a lot. So there you go right there. What else we got?
All right, so here's another one that's kind of interesting, and we've both been talking about it a little bit and kind of talking around it, but the news and the chatter is starting to get a little louder here that Andrew Luck might not even be ready for week 1 of the season. We might see Jacoby Brissett start at least the first game, if not maybe a couple.
I would play him in DFS too if he did start. Jacoby Brissett can play. He's not Andrew Luck though. I was in the draft last night, and you're already starting to see it. I believe T.Y. Hilton was on the board to the 4th round last night. So you're starting to see this weekend. We're going to see Andrew Luck is probably going to slip out the top 5 quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. T.Y. Hilton will slip into the 3rd round for the most part, or maybe even into the 4th round. I don't know how to judge Marlon Mack. I think the whole offense in general takes a hit if Andrew Luck is hurt. They're saying if he don't start, he's got 12 days before we get into he could miss the opener.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, man, we talked about it with Rob yesterday, Benny. I feel like they've mismanaged his health. Mm-hmm. This could be just a thing on Andrew Luck. What are you doing about it, Benny? To me, the most important one is T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, Hilton is the only guy that I think would really take a hit, other than Luck himself, who in a lot of drafts has been going the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th quarterback off the board. I don't want anything to do with him. I mean, again, most of the time I'm waiting to get quarterbacks to later in the draft anyway, but I would be really upset or at least really nervous if I'm sitting on, a bunch of shares of Andrew Luck at this point right now, because there is a good chance he might miss, like I said, at least the first game. And if the ankle's that bad, there might be other games throughout the season he misses too.
I just worry about the kid stay beat up. You know what I'm saying? Son, the kid, he stays beat up. If it's not one thing, it's another with Andrew Luck. That's what kind of worries me about that. Brissett is a good player. Can Brissett bring you back what you need in return? Put it like this. If I'm getting – right now, T.Y. is on that 2-3 turn, right? But he's like on the front end of it. If he slips to the back end of it, so instead of the 2-3 turn, if he goes, let's say he goes to 3-4 turn, that's when I'm like, okay, I can jump in on the 3-4 turn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because Luck probably ain't gonna miss the whole season.
No, he's not gonna miss the whole season. And the other thing is, you got to think that they're a better team with Andrew Luck than they are with Jacoby Brissett. Uh-huh. So there's a chance that they could be winding up playing from behind a little more if they got Jacoby Brissett in there, which would benefit pass catchers, namely T.Y. Hilton being the number 1 pass catcher on that team.
They didn't have a good report 2 years ago when Brissett was the guy, but I think Brissett has matured as a player. Benny, me and Rob looked at this yesterday, and I want to hop back into it today. To win, hold on one second. Where's it at? Divisions.
What are you looking at? The Colts to win the division?
Well, they were
or not the Colts to win the division now.
They're plus 110 right now. The Texans are plus 270.
It's a good bet. I mean, again, if Andrew Luck comes out in week 3 and fires off 25, 30 passes and looks really good, and then they pull him out of the game, after the 2nd or 3rd quarter, it might be a sucker's bet, but there's definitely if he's going to miss any time, I mean, I listen, Jacoby Brissett is a guy that can get you through a couple games if Luck is down. He's not the guy that's going to make that a 10-12 win team, which is, well, I think they're projected for over 10 wins this year. So that might be something to worry about too.
Told Rob this yesterday. They're off the board. So
It makes sense. It makes sense for them to be off the board with this up in the air.
they're off the board right now. You cannot bet the Indianapolis Colts win total right now. So the Andrew Luck thing, like you said, it has picked up steam. What else we got?
All right, so the next thing we got at a Seattle Seahawks camp. It looks like Chris Carson is absolutely fine. He's practicing. Everything's good there. And the rumor is that he's going to see 2/3 of the work to 1/3 for Rashard Penny. And also that the coach said they want to see him closer to 50 targets this year. Last year he had 24.
That's interesting. If they can pull that off, that would make him kind of a very good value at where he's going at right now.
Yeah, he's going, I want to say around like 80.
Are they down on Penny?
I don't know if they're down on him. The way they made it sound is it's more like they're really high on Carson.
Okay.
Like I don't think the workload being this way is because they're still planning on giving Penny 1/3 of the workload, which is I think more than he got last year. But it looks to me like they are really, really high on Chris Carson from everything that I'm reading and seeing.
Shout out to Chris Carson. That's what's up. I don't know how many gambles. Man. When it comes to Seattle, son, I just like Russell Wilson.
I normally do too, but we both said last year they went very run heavy. They were one of the run heaviest teams in the league last year. They might have even been number one.
In fact, they may have been one, and the Cowboys may have been two.
Yeah, which is, again, if you're going to give somebody 2/3 of the most carries of anybody in the league, that's interesting.
Volume right there.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about doubling the number of targets he saw last year. So Chris Carson right now, Corey, around ADP 50, going around the 4th or 5th round. That's a really nice guy to grab in the 4th or 5th round.
I would agree with you on that. I'm going to make a note of that one right there.
So here's the next one that I think could wind up being something here. So we noted right when preseason started that Kalen Ballage from the Miami Dolphins was taking a lot of the first-team reps. Well, Kenyon Drake, I didn't realize how good Kenyon Drake's numbers were last year for a guy who didn't get a lot of time on the field. 1,100 total yards, 9 touchdowns. And we complained all year that Gase wasn't using them and he should be getting more. But the thing that I wanted to talk about here is Drake got hurt in practice the other day.
Yep.
The guys behind them are absolute trash. If Drake is not 100% healthy, Kalen Ballage could be like a very high volume back. Now, again, a high volume back on a bad offense, but a very high volume back. And the other thing they're saying is they don't plan on giving Drake much more than what he got last year. They look at him as a change of pace guy. So even if Drake is healthy, this is going to be a 50-50 split.
Not even that. Drake will more than likely for Kenyon Drake is going to be difficult seeing him being ready for week 1. Now, that's just week 1. You know what I'm saying? But the Kalen Ballage thing, Benny, is interesting. I actually drafted Kalen Ballage in the draft last night, and I never touched Kalen Ballage. But,
Where'd you get him? How deep was it? 6th, 7th round, 8th round?
Pulled up right now, and the thing about it is crazy is, Benny, it was a 14-team league.
Oh, okay. So probably a couple rounds earlier than that. When you get
I still think it was pretty decent.
If you're getting him 6th or 7th round right now, you're talking like 60, 84. You're talking like pick 85 to pick 100. I don't think it's really that crazy because the running backs, like after you get past like that Carson, Ingram, like Tevin Coleman, probably the end of that range at like ADP 60. At that point, you're basically rolling the dice on a lot of those guys, and he seems like a better dice roll than some of the other players there.
I took Kalen Ballage in a 14-team league. I took Kalen Ballage in round 7.
So you're talking around the 100, around pick 100, 7 times 14, 98.
37th running back.
Yeah. Again, it looks like he's going to be a starter. It looks like the worst case scenario for him is going to be at least 50% of the volume. So if you're looking for a late round running back, you're trying to do a wide receiver heavy early draft and going 0 RB or something. I think there's more upside here with Kalen Ballage than I think we kind of give him credit for.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think he can give you good production through the bye weeks. That's the kind of way I look at him. Put it like this: if you have him, it's not ever going to be overly impressive, but at some point you'd be like, "Whoa, I'm glad I'm thankful that I had Kalen Ballage on this team.
Yeah, I could see him being a useful flex play at some weeks if you needed to, like once we start getting into bye weeks and stuff like that. I think there's a chance that he could have a couple good games. So let me throw a couple other things at you here. Josh Rosen has been showing out in practice lately.
Really?
Still, yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick still has the inside track on being the starter at the beginning of the season. But it looks very likely that at some point during the year, they're going to kind of sit Fitz down and give Rosen his chance and kind of see what they have there with him. Not much really.
I would not be surprised if he got traded again.
Who, Rosen?
Yep.
I mean, like I said, the way they're making it sound is that Fitz is still the starter, but it's a short leash. Like at some point in the year, they're going to switch.
Next April, the Dolphins will be drafting a quarterback with the first.
Agree.
And they probably would want to at some point see what Rosen has, showcase him for another potential trade. He's going to be on another team again next year. It's crazy, you know what I mean? It's wild what's happening to Josh Rosen. What else we got?
So let's see here. Your boy N'Keal Harry has stepped into the starting wide receiver role on the Patriots. He's been running with the ones. They look like he's going to be a starter there. The question I have for you is, okay, he's the starter, but Julian Edelman's going to be the top target. How much can we really expect for this kid, and is he even worth drafting?
Not in my opinion, he's not. I'm just going off the track record of New England Patriot wide receivers.
And rookie wide receivers in general. I mean, every once in a while, one or two will pop, but for the most part, it takes them 2 or 3 years before these guys really kind of come into their own and figure out how to run routes and get open at the NFL level. So I kind of agree with you. I still don't have any interest in N'Keal Harry.
No, only the rookie. We're both on Debo. As a rookie wide receiver. Also, I would keep an eye on Arcega-Whiteside. I hear he's having a good camp.
Okay. So where is he even getting drafted at this point?
He is being drafted very late, like wide receiver 80, something like that. Okay. You know what I'm saying? He's being drafted very late. He can be a guy that could pop off the waiver wire. Okay,
or somebody you draft late in your draft and just kind of stash him on your team until he gets in. Mm-hmm. All right, so here's the last thing I got for you, Corey. We're gonna end it on this. A quote from John Mara, New York Giants owner. For anybody who doesn't know who I'm talking about here,
I know exactly who you're talking about.
The hope is that Eli Manning is great this year and Daniel Jones doesn't even see the field. Direct quote from John Mara. Thoughts?
I wish somebody loved me the way the Giants love Eli Manning. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mara loves Eli Manning, apparently.
Yeah, it's they're going to come out there and they're going to showcase their guy, and at some point they'll sit him down. I think he gets sat down this year. I think he goes off into the sunset, or he tries to latch on and play someplace else for a year. He's probably in the backup quarterback stage of his career right now. Daniel Jones needs to get an opportunity. I just don't see – well, you know what? Who knows? The Giants maybe they play free with no pressure and they have a better season than people expect them to have. I just don't see it for NYG this year.
I will say this. I mean, nobody expects the Giants to do much of anything this year. So if they go 8-8, people are going to be like, oh, they outperformed it.
If they go 8-8, get a victory over the Cowboys, successful season.
Yeah, so here's the other part of the quote, though. Later on in the same, conversation, he kind of basically said, like, if there's a chance late in the year, if we're out of it, if things go on, maybe we'll get Daniel Jones. So he kind of softened it a little bit at the end. But just that quote just jumped out at me that, well, Eli, we're hoping that Eli's going to be great and Daniel Jones doesn't even see the field. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just don't know. So, the last thing I wanted to say, too, I don't know how long he holds on to it, but it seems like Case Keenum is going to be the starting quarterback for the Washington Redskins, at least at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I feel bad for my man Colt McCoy. They rushed him back last year, ended up breaking his leg, whatever. And Colt McCoy never really had a chance. And I'm sticking to that. I'm taking that to my grave, Benny. Colt McCoy never got a chance.
To me, Colt McCoy is a great backup quarterback, though. Like he'd
have been a great starter, Benny.
He could have been. I think he could have been a serviceable starter, but he's a great backup to have on the team. I'll say
even better than Sam Bradford.
No, I'm not going to argue that. I was never – no, honestly, like even going back to Oklahoma, I was never a Sam Bradford guy.
Yeah, there you go. 45-35, Colt McCoy. They should have it pisses me off. And nobody never gave my boy Cole a shot. And then as soon as he gets a shot in he beat the Cowboys one time on Monday Night Football.
I remember he's had a couple good games. Like I said, he's always been a pretty solid guy. I mean, to step in there as a young quarterback at Texas, I think he followed Vince Young too, right?
He was a Friday Night Lights legend, son. He was the biggest high school football players of all time, yo.
Yep. I mean, he's, Texas born and bred. Like, I would have liked to see him catch on with like the Texans or the Cowboys or something, because he could have been a folk hero in the state of Texas if that would have worked out.
Yeah, with the Texans, you know what I'm saying? All right, Benny. We discussed the Colts situation. Before let's take a quick break from fantasy right quick.
All right. I like when we go off the rails. This is fun. This is gonna be a good
Nation in the NFL.
Wait, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
Rock Nation and this deal with the NFL.
I didn't see it. What's the deal?
Well, Rock Nation and Jay-Z is more or less going to become a spokesperson for diversity, inclusion, social justice for the NFL of all people. He's going to be the executive producer of the halftime show, and he's got some other music ventures with the NFL. But basically, he's going to be almost like what Charlton Heston is to the NRA. Jay-Z is going to become to the NFL. They had this real interesting press conference yesterday with him and Roger Goodell, whatever the case may be. He was asked in the press conference, did he consult with Colin Kaepernick about this? He said yes. He never did. Him and Colin Kaepernick never had a conversation. The NFL and Jay-Z started talking in January of 2018. And I want to say this is a good move, and I trust Jay and stuff like that. But the more I think about it, I'm like, man, you really just hopped in bed with the NFL. Do you think, to put it like this, yesterday my thought process was Colin Kaepernick already cashed the fat check from the NFL. He's settled. He's good. I trust Jay to do the right thing. But as more and more pieces of the story starts to come out, I'm like, man, I understand Jay-Z's a capitalist, but this got a little funk on it, Benny. What do you think?
I mean, he's not a businessman. He's a
businessman. Yeah, there you go.
He's going to be getting a nice fat check from the NFL right here, but yeah, I don't really like the optics on this at all, man. I really don't. The NFL, instead of, worrying about actually making the right move, has decided to, try to appease the African-American community by bringing in a billionaire black man to be like, we like black people. I don't know. Like, to me, this kind of feels like, you ever watch South Park back in the day?
Yeah.
This is token right now. That's the way I'm looking at it. It's like they brought the black guy in to be like, see, I got a black friend. Like, you're going to have like all these NFL owners. Oh, look, my black friend Jay-Z right here. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not going to knock Jay-Z. If somebody offers me a huge check to do something, I'm going to do it too. I don't care how much money I have, but the optics to this, to me, don't look very good.
Nah, Colin Kaepernick's fiance is Nis Nettie from Hot 97. Obviously, she went on a rant yesterday saying that it was BS. She works for a radio station, so that's tough to do that because Jay-Z is one entity, but you got to understand his wife. You have to play that music. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't got to play Jay-Z's music. The wife, you got to play that music. You know what I mean? I don't know, Benny. The Carters are a strong family. I could see them trying to get into ownership. You put it like that. I'm hoping for the best, Benny, but it doesn't look as. After I read more about it yesterday, I'm like, man, you're right, Benny. The optics are not good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully this works out, and hopefully it's not like a major thing. But to me, it just looks like a bunch of old white guys bringing a black guy in so they could say, see, look, we got a black friend. We don't hate
exactly.
We don't hate black people.
So we'll see. In the very famous line he had when he talked about skipping the Super Bowl in 2018 was, I don't need you, you need me. Turns out they really do need him. Mm-hmm. But they asked him to perform in 2018. He said no. Last year when Travis Scott performed, he was critical of Scott. But you had already been talking to them for a year and some change now. That's I'm like, you know what I'm saying, Benny?
No, I like I said, listen, I'm not going to knock a businessman for making a business deal and making money. Like that's, we talk about it all the time. We talk about it with athletes all the time. Like get your bag. No one should ever argue with another man getting paid. But Jay-Z doesn't need the money. You know what I'm saying? Like if they offered you the job, I would have no problem with you taking that job and getting a huge check and setting it up. I would understand completely. Jay-Z has enough money where he doesn't need to do things for the money.
Yeah.
Like he can pick and choose what projects he wanted to do. And I don't know if picking and choosing this project is really the right way for him to handle it.
See how it plays out. FantasyGuru.com draft guide for 2019. Now live and lit. FantasyGuru.com. I think I got to record a couple podcasts for that joint today before I dip out of town for the weekend and head to Canton for the Kings Classic 14-team league I'm drafting this weekend, Benny. This is a tough year to do 14-team leagues, dog.
We did that 14-team draft the other night, and I was like, man, it starts getting by like round 8. You're like, Jesus Christ, like are these really the guys? like this is going to be my flex. This is going to be my wide receiver 3. Like, it gets tough. It's not easy. And again, I mean, you never know how things are going to work out, but we talk about it even in the 12-teamers. Like after you hit round 4, there's a lot of guys from round 5 through 8 that it really just comes down to who you like and who you don't like because the production and the, projected production is pretty similar.
I was in a draft last night, Benny. Is this the one right here? The wide receivers in the – it's not the one right here, but I can tell you how it happened. This might have been a draft we did the other night. Matter of fact, let me pull that one up because I find it interesting, and I think it's going on a lot. And I want to get your take and your opinion on it. If it's a place that we can find some value, office and a place to avoid. What was that draft? Oh, yeah, 14-team PPR mock fantasy guru. Let me pull up this draft board right here.
This is the one I was in, the same one that we were both in.
Yeah, the one that we both were in. Boom, boom. What league was that this week that I did where the wide receivers for the Los Angeles Rams all went in a row. So
round 5-ish?
Around 4, round 5-ish, they all went in a row.
I don't think it's crazy.
It's not crazy. It was Woods. It was Cooks. It was Woods, and it was Kupp. All went back to back to back.
Right.
Which one of them you want? Which one is your guy? Pick one, Benny.
For me, it's actually Robert Woods. If I'm taking one of those 3, I'm a Robert Woods guy. I take the solid everyday production and, the fact that he runs short routes and long routes as opposed to Cooks, who's more a downfield guy, and Kupp, who, is a little bit more working out of the slot. I really do think that all 3 of them are viable, though. My biggest thing with the Rams wide receivers is, let's say you take one of those 3 off the team. If you don't have, if you don't have Cooper Kupp or if you don't have Robert Woods, would that move Cooks up to be like a 3rd rounder? Because I look at Cooks pretty much the same way I look at a guy like T.Y. Hilton. The difference between Cooks and T.Y. Hilton to me is the supporting cast. On the Rams, you have a good running back and you have 2 or 3 other good wide receivers, so there's not going to be enough volume there. Whereas on the Colts, T.Y. Hilton is going to get the majority of the volume because all their other wide receivers pretty much suck, and the rest of it is going to go to like tight ends and running backs who are secondary. If you take Cook and you put him on Indianapolis, I think you wind up with the same kind of upside that you would from a T.Y. Hilton. But as long as all 3 of those guys are together, they kind of cannibalize each other and the upside that any of them can have.
I would join you in that theory that the one that I would like the best would be Robert Woods. I think he's the most consistent, that he could be the most consistent one. Cooper Kupp, I would have said that, but Cooper Kupp scares me coming off that injury. Yeah. And as far as Brandon Cooks, I think, Brandon Cooks is kind of in that boom or bust mode a little bit too much for me. I would like him more as a wide receiver 3. Well, you're never going to get him as a 3. You like him as a 2, you know what I'm saying? But you
like him as a 2 if you take if your 1 is like Adam Thielen, and your 2 is Brandon Cooks, I like that. Because you have the balance of the receptions and the solid floor along with the huge upside of the other guy, you know?
I can deal with that. So that's how I would judge that. You would never thought that in fantasy football in 2019, Robert Woods would have a higher ADP than Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, think about that back in the day. And how bad is Buffalo that every time a wide receiver leaves there, he winds up becoming a stud somewhere else?
You know what's wild is when Watkins first got hurt, they asked him who he thought was, the wide receiver they should lean on, and he said Robert Woods. He said Robert Woods is a real good player. People just sleeping on him. And Watkins was right about that. Robert Woods really can play. He finally got his body right, and you're starting to see it pay off now.
Well, I mean, he was always like it's not like he came out of nowhere. I mean, this was a USC wide receiver in college, very highly recruited, high prospect, came into the league. People thought a lot of him, but I think Buffalo just doesn't know what the hell to do with wide receivers. I think that's the problem. I mean, even a guy remember Zay Jones? Zay Jones was off the charts. People were so excited about this guy, and honestly, his career has kind of sucked in Buffalo. He's a guy that's going to wind up catching on with another team in 2 years, and the same thing's going to happen. He's going to blow up.
I can see that being the case also. So there you go with that one. What else do we got? It was something else I wanted to bring up to you before we get to some baseball picks. I'm riding with the Atlanta Braves every night, and it's
they got a tough one today against the Mets. Actually, Stroman on the mound for the Mets.
Today it might be the day I jump off.
I got some good baseball stuff for you when we get there, though, Corey.
I'm glad to hear that because I wouldn't mind taking one last one down before I get ready to head out of town for the weekend. It was another Colts and Browns are having joint practices.
Okay.
And the Colts beat writers are like, Baker Mayfield is the real deal.
I don't disagree. I love Baker Mayfield. We talked about this. Baker can play. Baker's a leader.
You draft him over Andrew Luck now, right?
Right now, it's not even a question after the Luck news coming out today. I don't even think anybody who would take Luck over Baker with the stuff hanging over Luck's head right now, I think he's crazy.
I agree. Aaron Rodgers or Baker?
I would still probably go Aaron Rodgers just because I've seen him do it longer and I trust him.
Matt Ryan or Baker?
Matt Ryan I like a lot this year. But literally anybody else who you mentioned from now on, if it's not Pat Mahomes or maybe Deshaun Watson, my answer is probably Baker.
Cam Newton?
Baker.
Okay, so there you go. So he's top 5.
Yeah, I think he is right now.
Watson, Rodgers, Ryan, Baker.
For me, that would be the list right now.
I like it, Benny. I can get behind that too. I'm going to have some Baker White. Don't be surprised if I come back and on Monday and I share my team, with y'all. That Baker
Odell.
I don't know if I can pull that off. You know what I'm saying? Nando won't be in this one to bid me up on Odell. Oh man!
Draft you're going to with the auction?
Well, we're doing 2. We're doing a snake draft and we're doing an auction. I'll put up the list right now. This is going to be I tell you, the industry leagues that got in this year, Benny, some heavy hitters in it. You know what I'm saying? And another thing. You see this report this morning on this video of Conor McGregor?
Yeah, where you hit the old guy and the old guy didn't even drop.
This old guy, you know what I'm saying? Conor McGregor, oh my God.
He's a punk. He is a punk.
He's staying some shit, don't he?
I mean, listen, I watch a lot of MMA. I'm actually into it.
Yeah.
I thought the easiest money I ever made was when he fought Khabib. To me, it wasn't even close. I couldn't believe the line. I was like, wait, I'm actually getting plus money on Khabib right now? Okay, I'll take it. I honestly, McGregor is very good at marketing himself. And don't get me wrong. I mean, the guy's a very good fighter too. I'm not saying he sucks, but people talk about him like he's the best thing that ever happened to MMA. He might be the biggest star that ever came out of MMA, but he's not even up there on my top 10 list of best fighters.
And that's what people say about him. When people call him Muhammad Ali, at least his character.
His mouth maybe. but that's about it.
He has that Muhammad, and the Muhammad Ali was very good at that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say is Conor McGregor is also very good at that too. But Muhammad Ali is that's big shoes to follow right here. So this weekend, right? King's Classic, Jim Brown division. My man Bob Lung, our boy Scott Atkins, John Coverty, Curtis Patrick, Jeff Ratcliffe is in it. Andy Behrens, Mike Clay, Bob Harris. And I'm like, those is kind of
that's some big names right there.
Those cats know what they're doing. But the fantasy executive think you do all right too, Benny. You know what I'm saying?
I ain't worried about you. I got my money on you still.
I appreciate you, Benny. And then in the auction, it's about the same cats right there. Oh, and your man Dave Richard from CBS joins the party too when we get into the auction.
Okay.
So it's 2 drafts, Benny. It's a 14-team PPR, and it's a 14-team auction. I believe the regular snake draft might be Superflex, which would be horrible.
The 14-team auction is very interesting because in the
$400 extra in the player in the auction, but it's not $400 extra worth of players.
No, and that's the thing. It's like a lot of times in a 12-teamer, you're able to spend $50-$60 on some of the studs you want because at the end you're still getting good players for like $1 or $2 or $3. In a 14-teamer, though, people are going to be fighting for every one of those guys. Like those $1, $2 guys that you can get in a 12-teamer are going to wind up being $6 or $7, which again doesn't sound like a lot, but when you need 5 or 6 of them to round out your team, that means that you're not going to be able to spend as much on the studs, or if you do, you're going to end up with taking like guys that are like backup 3rd and 4th wide receivers, not in fantasy, like on their actual team. You know what I mean?
Problem is, Benny, it's like this. I've done it before, and we were very successful with it. You know what I'm saying? We could have fucking won that joint if I could have picked the right weeks to play Ryan Fitzpatrick and Andrew Luck. No, it would have fell off at the end anyway because Emmanuel Sanders ended up getting hurt down the stretch last year. So yeah, it would have made a deep run, probably week 15ish. That team would have died last year, as opposed to it died in week 13. But it was very strong the first 13 weeks of the season. It was a very good bunch. So here's the deal, right? It's all about the room. You can't dictate it because that room last year for 14 teams, it was a conservative room. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Get out here this week, and these guys can start popping off. All of these big running backs, if these big running backs go for 65, then it's like, okay, this is going to be interesting. But by the same token, if those big backs go for 65, what ends up happening after that is those mid-tier backs will start going for less than what they should go. So inflation will solve the room. It's just a matter of, do you be aggressive at the jump or do you sit back and let the auction come to you? Did Benny have to get back on the floor? Oh, okay.
No, I had to go help little man with something real quick.
Okay.
That's a good point. I'm just talking about the sheer volume, though. I mean, with 14 teams, if you want to have 4 or 5 wide receivers on your fantasy team, you're going 40, 56 to 70 wide receivers deep. You know what I'm saying? So when you're in a 12-teamer, you probably go 40, 55 wide receivers deep. So those guys that are like the Danny Amendolas, the Adam Humphreys, those are guys that you can get for $1 in a 12-teamer. You might have to pay $7-8 to get those guys in a 14-teamer because they could honestly be somebody's like 3rd wide receiver.
Yeah, no doubt. You're right about that too, Benny. So that the math makes it very interesting. I know what? I'm glad I did this right here because I'm looking at the setup, right? And you know what? You can put up to 4 players on the IR.
I like that. I honestly like the IR spots. Some drafts are starting to do it. I like the IR spots. 4 is a lot.
For the IR, AJ Green.
Yeah.
In a 14-team league, you can put AJ Green on the IR, right? You can just dash him. See, you only have 6 bench spots. So do you want to have AJ Green on your bench for a month and you're only dealing with 5 bench spots? That's where the math of it becomes interesting. But definitely make sure you check I said it to everybody. Check your league rules. If you have an injured reserve spot, Think about putting AJ Green in it because you'll get him for cheap.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of 4. That's a lot to me. 4 is a lot more than I've seen.
That's a lot, yeah.
But like 2, I think is a good number. And a lot of leagues that I've been in that have it, I've been like, oh, why are we doing this? And then during the season, I'm like, yeah, I kind of like this because otherwise you wind up dropping guys that could help somebody else win a championship at some point, especially when bye weeks come because you're just trying to make sure you have enough guys to get through.
Here's the situation with the injured reserve. It's got to be ran right. Like if a dude missed practice, don't mean you could put him on IR.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Like when you put a cat on IR, I mean he needs to be out. You know what I'm saying?
He needs to be like he's missing multiple weeks and hasn't practiced. Like, yeah, I agree. It's not just like, oh, he injured. He's got a turned ankle on Tuesday in practice. I'm going to IR him.
No, that's bullshit right there. I disagree with that one right there. So we'll talk more about this stuff tomorrow. Let's get into some picks for the night, Benny, so I can see if I can keep this run going.
Yeah, so there's only 8 games tonight for baseball. It's kind of a small slate. It's a Thursday, usually the way it is. There may be some afternoon games too. I didn't look at the afternoon games. I'm not going to lie to you guys. You know, I looked at the main slate, which is the late ones. But 3 things that I like betting-wise. I like you, Darvish, and the Cubs going up against the Phillies here today. I don't think Smiley's a very good pitcher for the Phillies. Darvish has actually been pitching a little better. One thing I'm going to throw into this game too, though, I like the idea of Darvish over 6.5 Ks. His last 3 games, he had like 9, 8, and 9. So I do think this is a spot where he can go over it. A little worried because he's
enough for your free swinging team.
Not so much. Like it's not the greatest spot for strikeouts, but Darvish's stuff is that elite. The concern is there's been a couple of these games though where Darvish has only thrown like 80 pitches.
Yeah.
You know, that's a concern. But again, he threw 77 pitches in the last game and had 9 strikeouts. So the guy's strikeout stuff is elite. He does get swing and misses. You know, he does get people chasing out of the zone. So I'm fine with him with the over for 6.5. The other thing about Darvish, though, 17 home runs allowed in 66 innings of work to left-handed batters this year. And Bryce Harper finally has broken out of his funk and has been unbelievable. The last week, 5 home runs in the last week. 2 of them have been multi-home run games. He's 8 for his last 25 with 5 home runs. Plus 270 is the number you're getting on Bryce Harper to hit a home run. Philly being a very good ballpark for home runs. So I like Harper plus 270. I like Darvish minus 121 for over 6.5 Ks. And I like the Cubs at minus 148 in that game. The only other 2 things I'm looking at here, I like Sonny Gray at minus 165, and I like the under in the Houston-Oakland game, and I'm going to have to go strangle at least one of my kids in a minute too.
All right, so let me hurry up and let you get to that. You like the under in the Houston-Oakland, right? And what'd you say about Benny's child abuse?
Yeah. You might have to call DYFS on me right now. I just scared the hell out of the 2 of them. What were you asking me? I'm sorry.
Sonny Gray. What did you say about Sonny Gray again?
Yeah, Sonny Gray, minus 165 against the Cardinals today. And Michael Wacha's pitching for the Cardinals. I am not a Michael Wacha fan. I think he sucks. Sonny Gray's been having an amazing season, though. So minus 165 on Sonny Gray. I'll take that in that spot right there. So I'm even thinking about and I got to look at what the numbers work out to. The Reds and the Cubs parlay together probably get you a decent return, maybe even close to 2. So that might be something that I do because I do like the Cubs a lot and I do like the Reds a lot today.
All right, there you go right there. So we got the Cubs, Reds, and then we got a nice little under 10 for the Athletic and the Astros. Now, you don't think that the Astros be pounding cats out? Not going to happen tonight?
Well, the biggest problem I have is Aaron Sanchez, who the Astros just picked up. You know, I don't know what it is, but the Astros pitching coaches are amazing because every guy that they wind up picking up winds up pitching just even better than he did. So Sanchez, I don't think is going to give up a lot to Oakland. And Mike Fiers has actually been pitching good for Oakland. So I could see the over-under on the game is 10. Like, I could see it being like 5-4 or like 6-3.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be like an 8-6 slugfest where you're looking for, you know, both sides to put up runs. I think both sides are going to struggle for runs. So if you need 5 from each side, I don't know if you're going to get it.
All right, there we go. Big piece of chicken. I'll give it to you, Benny, for making it back after that scare yesterday.
So yesterday was actually my brother Steve's daughter, my niece Audrey's birthday. So I was gonna give her the big piece of chicken yesterday because it was her birthday. But since I didn't make it to the show with the kidneys, I'm gonna give it to her today. So big piece of chicken today to my niece Audrey. Happy birthday!
I'll be giving out a big piece of chicken tomorrow to my daughter who turns 9 years old tomorrow. So we've got parenting down set over this side of town. All right, for my main man, Benny Ricciardi, is Corey Parson, Fantasy Executives Opening Line. We are out.